Welcome to Sex Ed with DB. I'm your host, DB. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the podcast. If you love and support the work that we do, head to www.sexedwithdb.com and buy some of our hot new merch. Follow us on Instagram at sexedwithdbpodcast. And if you want to advertise with us, shoot us an email at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. This week, I speak to Anne Louise Burdett. Annie is a certified Western Constitutional Herbalist with 15 plus years of training and 9 years of experience as a primary care clinician with a dual focus on sexual health and trauma. She's also a certified sexual health educator and medicinal herb farmer. As CEO of TOCA, her newest project, she is creating pleasure products and educational materials combining botanical extracts with high potency CBD. You can find out more information at tocatoca.com. Give it up for Annie. Clone-A-Willy and Clone-A-Pussy kits allow you to make the most personalized sex toys on the planet. Clone-A-Willy is the original DIY dildo kit, and Clone-A-Pussy is the original DIY pocket pussy. They're fun to make, sex positive, and completely body safe. Use promo code SEXED20 for 20% off your purchase at www.cloneawilly.com. Follow them on IG at Clone-A-Willy Kit. Need a new vibrator? Meet FemmeFunn. With an innovative approach to research and design, FemmeFunn always strives to create products that truly fit all bodies and desires. Not all orgasms are created equally, but with over 20 unique items to choose from, the possibilities are endless. Use promo code SEXEDWITHDB for 15% off your purchase at www.femmefun.com. That's www.femmefun.com. And don't forget to follow them on Instagram at FemmeFunn. Need an incredible new sex toy that's cheaper than your next bottomless brunch? Say hi to Sweet Vibrations. Sweet Vibes believes that masturbation is a vital part of a self-care routine. Whether you're screaming its praises from the mountaintops, enjoying yourself in the solitude of your bedroom, or sharing it alongside a partner. Simply put, they strive to be the leaders that inspire folks to embark on their own sexual wellness journey. Find out more at www.sweetvibe.toys and use promo code SEXEDWITHDB to get 15% off your first purchase. Hello, Annie. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Happy for you to be here. We'll just go ahead and get started by you telling everyone your name, your pronouns, job title, and a little bit about your company, TOCA.
Great. Yeah. So my name is Anne Louise Burdett. A lot of people call me Annie Lou. And
Very
my
cute.
Pronouns, yeah, it's a long time nickname, but I love it. And my pronouns are she, her. I'm the CEO at TOCA, also known as TOCA Botanica. And TOCA is a really new company. We will have our 1 year anniversary in May.
Oh,
and
congrats.
Yeah, it's been in the works for quite a while, but yeah, we officially launched last May. And we make organic, all super high quality sex lubes that are based in full spectrum CBD and also botanically formulated with a blend of different medicinal plants. And the business kind of emerged out of my clinical experience as a Western Constitutional Herbalist and as a sex educator. I was just finding more and more that those two different career fields were naturally merging. And so it was kind of an exciting new endeavor. And I got really excited, 2018, 2019, with all the shifting of legality around cannabis. And it was something that, I couldn't use in my clinical practice until then legally. So it was just a really exciting shift to then be able to be making medicine with a plant that, has been in relationship to human beings for so very long.
I love that. Before we go on, can you give us maybe like a mini history lesson about the relationship between cannabis and human beings?
Yeah, well, we have been using different forms of cannabis, both, the primary ways that people know cannabis now are marijuana and hemp. So there's like more, THC dominant or CBD dominant is sort of the common way that people are talking about it now. But cannabis is the whole family of plants, and it's the same genus. It's from the same plant originally, and it's actually, as far as we can tell, research wise, it's one of the plants that humans have been engaging with, using for a million different things for the longest. So, we used to use it for fibers, for clothing, for medicine, for all kinds of like utilitarian function. And, I won't go into like really extensive detail, but as you can imagine, through different shifts culturally and historically, it became more demonized as a plant, and then eventually totally illegal. Mm-hmm. And also, its use, I think, became sort of abused in different ways, and developed a lot of stigmas that came out of sort of like, I think, a disconnect from our like deepest relationships with it as a plant and as a medicine.
Really interesting. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but can you go a little bit deeper into your background about you being a sex educator and an herbalist, and kind of like the path that really led you to creating TOCA?
Yeah. So my current career is really focusing on sexual health, but coming from a few different angles. As a sex educator, primarily, I write curriculum with a team of 4 other people, and we teach it in elementary schools. We have a couple of schools online now, and a few more that are excited to become new pilots for the curriculum. And we teach K through 2nd grade, which is, a lot of people are like, why on earth would you start that young? Like, what are you teaching kindergartners about sex? And, we decided to write curriculum for that age group. One, because teachers and parents were asking for it. We were having forums with the adults in the public school system and saying, like, what do you need? When do you need it? Like, what's going on with the kids in the classrooms? And people just kept asking for it to be starting at the beginning, Mm-hmm. And we also, we wanted to work with that age group because as we were doing more and more research, we started out writing curriculum for high schoolers. And it just was so obvious that even by middle school, the kids are having to unlearn rather than learn. Mm-hmm. The damage has already been done. There's all of this kind of ingrained harmful behavior that kids have learned in a lot of different ways around mm-hmm. body shame and non-consensual touch and not respecting self and others and not knowing how to communicate boundaries and, just all of these things that then you're like really working to undo them rather than just teach healthy behaviors. Mm-hmm. So, we teach this curriculum that's mostly, we're not teaching kindergartners how to put condoms on bananas or right. about STIs. We're talking about like, what does healthy yes and no feel like for anything, and what does a healthy relationship to your own body feel like? What does it mean to understand your own desire and understand your own boundaries? And how can you advocate for yourself at a very young age? And like, what is healthy touch and non-healthy touch? Because kids are already, they're touching each other and themselves at that age. And mm-hmm. So yeah, I've started, it's been a few years working on that curriculum and getting it into schools. And then on the other end of my professional endeavors and focus right now is I have a Western Constitutional Herbal Medicine clinic. It's kind of a mouthful, but I'm a Western herbalist, and I've had a clinical practice for close to 10 years now. Oh, wow. And I was just finding more and more that, many clinicians will tell you like the thing that you're ready to work with kind of walks in the door, like whatever the like sort of like tools that you have to reach people or connect with people, like those people will find you. And I kept finding that my practice just kept specializing more and more. And the 2 places it was going was sexual health, sexuality, sexual dysfunction, and trauma. And I have some training in trauma counseling and some training in sexual health and sexuality counseling. And I just found that almost 100% of my clients were coming in, and they were coming with a huge range of different things happening in their bodies, but almost like the entirety of the time, unless it was like a twisted ankle or like poison ivy, I was seeing that it was somehow related to unresolved trauma in the body. And I was also seeing that sexual health and sexuality and sexual vitality was this really potent mirror or like reflection of the self and like the wellness or imbalance that someone might be feeling, or how they can kind of gauge that, whether or not they're sexually active or want to be, but just that like it's a reflection of desire and of like coming from a place of like feeling innately yourself and acting from a place of like desire, and even like eroticism in the way you live, you know, in daily life. So I just got excited about finding like a more of a focus there. And also, you know, not all trauma is sexually based, but it often does inform how we can like trust and feel safe and connect with others. And quite a lot of people have sexual trauma.
Totally.
So yeah, so it was just like all these different things were kind of coming into clear and clear focus and like interacting in a really interesting way. And I was finding like, wow, I'm going to work and I'm working with kindergartners and we're talking about healthy touch and communication and advocacy and agency. And then I'm going to my clinic and I'm working with people that like have often like really long held unresolved trauma, whether it be like from like microaggressions or from some major event, or just like being in the world and you know, the world can be painful. So kind of like coming from both angles of like learning. I also like strongly believe that whatever age we are, hopefully we're always learning play. We're always learning new forms of pleasure and desire. You know, we're always like finding out new things about ourselves. So I found all of this like coming together. And I'm also a medicinal herb farmer, and I love growing plants and I love making medicine and I love formulating. So TOCA just became this like really obvious, wonderful center focus for all these different things that I'm working on all the time, and making a product.
It's a perfect marriage. Like it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of cool CBD lubes in the world right now, but I think ours is really different because it's coming from this like marriage of these different things that I and my business partner do. And our products are really focused not only on like all the beautiful things of increasing pleasure and sensitivity and arousal and prolonging orgasm, but also like really trying to get at the barriers to those things, like inflammation and pain and tension and infection, irritation, trauma. Like there's just, you know, same thing, coming at it from both sides feels really important to me.
Totally.
So yeah, we see our products as being like pleasure, fun products, but also like medicinally potent and effective.
Oh, fantastic. I cannot wait to try it. I know that you sent me some and I can't wait, and I will absolutely let you know how it goes.
Yes, please do.
But yeah, can you talk a little bit about the science behind CBD lube and like its benefits and kind of like what your customers have said and like what your experience has been, and just kind of like, can you break down kind of what that looks like when it's used on the body and when it's used on like the vulva basically?
Yeah, absolutely. So science, there's a lot of research that's being done. And, you know, research follows money. So cannabis is a very lucrative crop at the moment. So there is a lot of money and research for it and around it right now. But there's also, you know, a lot we don't know and a lot of new things that are being learned all the time. But what has become really clear is that our endocannabinoid system, which is one way that people talk about it as the global protection system. So it kind of like, it's the system that's designed to help people perceive safety in the world and perceive like what is me and what is not me and how do I learn from these experiences. And it has a lot to do with like memory and reward circuits, which are also like what drive us to do things like exercise and drugs and sex and make them enjoyable and make us learn like the feedback loop of what we want, you know. And but it's also just like a very elegant system of messengers and controls, and it's kind of like the system that's helping us maintain optimum homeostasis. And we have receptors for our endocannabinoid systems throughout the body, in the brain, organs, the connective tissue, the glands, the immune cells. It's the system that is kind of like the bridge between body and mind. So THC and CBD are the chemical compounds that we're most familiar with. They're seemingly the most active in our bodies. And, I think that they're both amazing medicines. THC is an incredible potentiator for lots of medicines. And like when CBD and THC are combined, they're really potent together. We have the federally legal limit of THC in our products. So it's under 0.3% because we want to be able to reach as many people as possible with our products. But we intentionally don't make products that are THC free, because even that like micro amount of THC is activating the rest of the plant chemicals in the formulas that we make in the products.
Okay.
So the primary, there's so many things going on in all of those systems that I just described, but some basic ways that CBD makes sense to be in a lube and that works really well in a sex lube is a big one is it just fundamentally increases vasodilation. So it's going to help a lot with blood rushing to the area, with erectile tissue being able to engorge, which means like you're getting all your erogenous zones online. They're more available to be pleasured. They're more sensitive, and they can be more sensitive for a longer amount of time because of the lube and the plants that are in it that are going to be kind of like activating and sensitizing, but limiting irritation or friction. And then also CBD is a really potent anti-inflammatory. It's a really great analgesic, which means it reduces or eliminates pain, and it's a relaxant. And so it also not only reduces kind of the duration of pain, but it reduces our awareness of it. So you might still be having those signals and they will come back online later, which is important. You don't want to completely eliminate your pain signaling, because then you don't know when something's wrong.
Numb it out.
Yeah, but it allows you to continue to live fully. And sometimes you have to break through pain cycles in order for your body to kind of like readjust the signaling that's going on. So it's, we're seeing it as a way to take down inflammation, take down any kind of pain or tension. It'll relax the muscles of the vaginal walls. It'll allow blood to rush in. It'll allow optimum sensitivity. And it's relaxing, so it allows you to kind of center and be present and be in your body, which is a really difficult thing to do culturally, I would say, as a general thing. It's, our culture lives from the neck up. We're really cerebral. There's so much going on. There's so much media. There's so much multitasking. Things move so quickly. It's incredibly difficult to live in the body, to like live in the organism rather than just in the thoughts, in my opinion.
Also, you have a very calming voice and presence, and I feel like I would love to listen to you like talk through a meditation. That's just like the first thing that comes to mind for me. But also, that's amazing that there's all this like science that shows that these like bodily reactions are happening when CBD lube is applied. And that sounds like that's incredible for people who can use that and like feel good with it. And I would notice that in your description on your website is it Toto? Like, how do you pronounce that?
Yeah, Toto.
Toto. So for your lube for vulvas, it says it can prolong orgasm. So how does that work? And what does that like look like maybe for different people who use it?
Well, one thing, just to go back for a second to your question, it's kind of they're together, but you had asked about like our customers and feedback and how we're kind of seeing the lube work. And one thing that I wanted to say, which is also kind of touching on your next question, but is one thing that we have found is for because of different relationships and Instagram and that sort of thing, we got connected to like a really beautiful and interesting community of folks who are dealing with endometriosis, which is a really painful, debilitating condition that doesn't have a simple cure. Like people are told they just have to live with it. And, there's a lot of interventions that are invasive and also very painful. And it's been a really I think, poorly handled thing. It's kind of been another statement of not caring enough about women and femme bodies. And we have gotten a lot of our lube into folks' hands in that communities and gotten such incredible feedback.
Oh, good.
And that's really why we started the business. It's we'd love to just, if you don't have any pain or discomfort, the lube is still going to be really fun and really great and potentially can shift your sex life in lots of different ways. But being able to also make something that can shift someone's can be a way that people who feel like they maybe weren't ever going to have a pleasurable or healthy sex life can kind of shift that perspective too and be like, oh, that doesn't have to be true. Even if it's just incremental, this can shift. And there are tools out there that I, haven't tried yet. And we had one customer recently get in touch with us and said, the first time that I used this lube, I started weeping because it was the first time I've had sex without pain in years. Oh my
God, that's so important.
It just gave me full body chills, in a good way.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. So when we say we can prolong orgasm, there's a lot of different things going on there. And everyone is so different. There's just nothing as idiosyncratic as sex. Every single person is going to respond to every single thing in a unique way. But when we talk about prolonging orgasm, there's knowns and there's unknowns. One, there's just anecdotally, people are saying they're having longer, fuller, multiple orgasms than they've had before. We don't always know why this is. Cannabis seems to have that effect. And for some people, it's CBD, for some people it's THC, for some people it's the combination, but we're seeing our CBD and micro THC combo working really well in that just sort of anecdotal empirical evidence.
Right.
But what we, the way that we designed it was, one, the fact that it's anti-anxiety, the fact that it's relaxing, the fact that it's incredibly soothing, allows for much longer, more connective foreplay. Just simply can allow you to feel more present, to go deeper, to be more in your body, like I was saying before. And that just sets up an environment in which you're going to be able to potentially have much bigger, longer, or multiple orgasms.
Love the sound of that.
Yeah. and repeating some of the stuff I said before, it's going to increase blood flow. It's going to increase sensitivity and engorgement. Right. It's going to get all those erectile tissues fully online. It's also going to allow for better fluid movement in general in the pelvis. And when there's a lot of congestion in the pelvis, that can really shorten and diminish the amount of sensitivity and the ability to reach really deep, long orgasm. And people are all different, but for some folks, it's hard to get aroused. It's hard to get started, especially from what I was saying before of being cerebral and being I'm going. I'm seeing a million things. I'm doing a million things. Okay, let's do it. All right, body, are you ready? And it's hard to make that shift.
Right.
And so that's, so cannabis lube, CBD lube, is also sometimes called a pre-lube because the plants in the oil are sort of a slow release. So it can take 15 to 30 minutes to really settle into the body, which, means that you actually have to carve out a little bit more time than you might otherwise.
Right.
I mean, you can have a really hot 5-minute quickie with this lube and it'll feel great, but you won't get the full blown maximum potential out of it.
Right.
And so, for folks that have more trouble getting aroused, that sort of, pre-lube foreplay moment where it can be difficult if you're well, I want to have sex, but I'm not wet enough, so you can't touch me enough to then get me aroused enough to be ready. There's a feedback there. Yeah. And so if you just have an aid that helps you kind of like warm up, it's like, I mean, the way that I think about it is actually, like with food and digestion, it's pretty common knowledge now that like, if you actually take some time with your food, if you make it beautiful, if you spend time smelling it before you actually eat it, if you chew it well, you're prepping your body for what's about to come. It's revving up all its enzymes. It's gonna be able to make maximum use out of the food, extract maximum nutrition, process it well. Your digestion's gonna go more smoothly. And that's sort of like how I see this as well. Like sometimes the mind and the body have to connect, where you have to be like, okay, body, I'm gonna catch you up. I'm not just gonna put a ton of pressure on you to perform in the exact moment that I want you to, but I'm gonna like actually like really kind of lead into this and let you kind of get on board.
That's a really good point, because when you think about like when people plan like for like sex with their partner, like they like probably sometimes like schedule it, like, oh yeah, like because we haven't had it in a while, like let's just plan for tomorrow night. And like if your body is not prepped, or you're not in the right mindset, or there's you just got an update about corona on your phone, like you're not going to be in the right place for that.
Right. And scheduling sex is really common now. Like it's just kind of it's part of like our culture. And I remember the first time friends or clients like were like, well, we decided we're going to try this and we feel so strange about it. Like, who does that? And I'm like, actually a lot of people, because life is very, very full. And if you don't make time for things, they pass you by. And
well, especially if you have kids, or if you have other kinds of commitments that you have to kind of be, putting this in your schedule just so that you make time for it. Like, it's understandable, but like you said, it's really interesting just because I'm sure there are other cultures who just like, that's really not how they do it. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because you kind of mentioned it before, but like you said, our culture like is really set up for like, multitasking, bing, bang, boom, and really busy. Like, can you talk about maybe other kinds of cultures that you've studied or that you like are aware of that kind of approach sex and intimacy in a really different way?
That's a good question. I mean, I speak about our culture meaning the U.S. primarily.
Right.
I live in Puerto Rico, which is, contentiously the U.S. or maybe not the U.S. And, I don't know if I could speak about other cultures so much just because it's not my lived experience so much. I mean, I have lived in a lot of different places, but I guess I just feel like, I mean, that's partially like, I think one cultural difference I could easily draw forward is, and it's partially why I'm so impassioned about being in the pleasure business and like pleasure activist, is that I think acting from desire, acting from a place of pleasure and authenticity of like, what do you really want? Whether it has to do with like, I want, to use butt plugs with two different people at the same time, fine.
Go for it.
Or I want to make sure that I take a morning walk every day for at least 15 minutes before I get on the computer. I just like, it can be sexual or not, but like acting from a place of authentic desire and experiencing pleasure, having fun, being playful with life, being creative and imaginative. Like, to me, these are essential. They're absolutely foundational to life being worth living. And to me, it feels like, and I think that like people historically have known this. I mean, that's, we have art and music and, all types of different cultural expressions to show that this has been important to human beings always.
Right.
But in the US, I feel like it's the extra. It's like, first you accomplish your to-do list. First you make sure you're addressing your achievements. And then if there's time, like have a glass of wine and maybe have sex. But like, it just feels like
it's not prioritized as much.
It's not seen as essential. It's seen as like secondary. And then, I'm obviously making like big general statements. I'm not speaking about individuals so much as just like cultural phenomena, but that's what I see. And I see a lot of, I think American culture is also like, burnt out and
Mm-hmm.
people dealing with like massive, physiological issues due to stress and adrenal fatigue and PTSD that's unaddressed and anxiety. Like these are things that are coming from like not being able to create a sense of like pleasure in your life. And even the idea that pleasure is like privileged or something, which it is in many ways. Like if you have to work all the time, if you have a bunch of kids, if you have an ill family member, like those things are going to come first.
Right.
But to still find all the small pleasures in life that don't cost anything, that don't take a lot of time. You don't have to go on a vacation and pay a bunch of money to stay in a fancy hotel. You just have to like figure out what fruit gives you pleasure and just sit with it and enjoy it for 5 minutes of the day. And that kind of slowness and appreciation feels, in my experience living inside and outside the US a good amount, feels more appreciated in other places than what I see in US and American culture.
Right. Yeah, like I know I lived in Italy for like 6 months in college, and I stayed after my program, and I lived with a family and was their au pair for like 6 weeks, and they just made it like it was so normal for Italians to go home for like 2 hours during lunchtime and just like
Yeah.
sit and eat your food and like hang out with your family.
Yeah.
Like kids go home from school to like go like or yeah, from school they come home to eat lunch with their family every day, like every weekday, and it's such a different experience, and it's a very much based in like slowing down and just kind of appreciating it. And I thought that was a really cool like cultural moment that's very different than here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moving on to anal lube. So you have Kulo, which is designed for anal play. So can you talk a little bit about the decision to specifically make a lube for anal? I'm sure those lubes are out there, but I also, as like a sex educator and someone who's, I've done so many of these interviews for this podcast, I've like never heard of a specifically branded anal lube. So I'm curious about that decision and kind of how that opens doors to be inclusive and X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We felt pretty clear and straightforward. One reason is we wanted to create options for people. So we wanted to have people be able to like smell, feel, and touch, taste the lubes and see which they liked better. And they're definitely designed and marketed, for vaginal tissue and anal tissue, but they're also, we have two different lubes right now, and they are actually interchangeable. Like you certainly can use the vaginal lube on your anus and vice versa. They're both wonderful. They also both work on all tissues of the body. I mean, I use Kulo on my face.
Oh,
and
great.
like Toto is amazing for sore and inflamed breasts and menstrual cramps. They're both great massage oils. But we wanted to specifically have vaginal and anal lubes. One, because there's different plants in them and they have slightly different focuses. And, the anus doesn't self-lubricate. It doesn't create its own form of lubrication. So the anal lube is focused a little bit more on increasing blood flow, increasing kind of slipperiness and lubrication, and preventing irritation and friction. And both of the lubes have plants that are antibacterial and antifungal. So like also with anal sex, there can be like micro tears that happen because that tissue is really sensitive. And so the lubes actually built into them have both tissue healing plants, antibacterial plants, antifungal plants, so that you won't get secondary infections, so that you won't be in pain after having sex, so that you can have longer, more fulfilling sex. And but both of them, it's also, we want to be clear about like what we designed them for, and also let people know like just try them out and and put them anywhere.
Exactly. Amazing.
Yeah, and then what you mentioned this, but inclusivity is sort of the cornerstone of our business, and having both vaginal and anal lube felt really important because we're trying to make products that are for everyone, and they're for every kind of sex and for all kinds of sex play. And we wanted to make sure that our products reflect that, and that if you are a person that specifically wants to have anal sex, or you don't have sex with vaginas, that we are creating something that is also for you, and to let people know that like we have you in mind, and these lubes are like also lube is so important, I think, for sex because it really allows for more experimentation and it allows for different kinds of sex. And so that's all just stuff that we want to be reflective in our branding, in our marketing, and in our design of our products.
Love it. Oh, this has been such a wonderful, informational interview. I feel like I've learned so much. I have a couple more questions. One being, where is TOCA going next? Where do you all see yourselves in like 3 to 5 years? Is it kind of like getting the current products out there? Is it like making more products? Is it, having, various kinds of opportunities to be in stores? Like where do you guys want to be and what do you hope to achieve?
Yeah, great question. We have so many hopes and dreams, but we're really excited about launching a few more products. We had plans to have that happen like next month, but I think that's going to be pushed back a little bit because of the global circumstances. But hopefully that maybe won't be delayed too much, a couple months. We're excited about, we're going to make a CBD free lube because there's a lot of places that can't carry CBD still because of payment processing and like logistics that are annoying. But also for folks that are, wanting lube that doesn't involve cannabis, which is totally fine. There's lots of other plants as well that can do all kinds of magical things in all the best places. We also, are hoping to make internal products eventually. I've been making and selling medicinal plant extracts and formulas for 10, 15 years. And I just love the process, and I love finding really like interesting and elegant ways to explore the relationships and conversation between different plants. And now that we can integrate cannabis into that, that's super exciting to me. But additionally to, our product lines, we're in the process of developing more educational material, resource sharing. We hopefully would like to offer some online classes and like really, really, I think what I personally am always most excited about is collaboration and allyship and relationships. And so we're just really excited about like connecting with other folks making interesting products, with folks doing interesting work in the like sex and sexuality fields. We're talking to like some really interesting leather workers right now and different like BDSM folks, and we'd love to support sex workers. And we want to elevate everyone that's trying to bring, healthy intimacy and respect and communication and sexuality to the forefront. And and like folks like yourself, we're so excited to be in these kinds of conversations.
Oh, I know. Isn't it so fantastic when people who are doing similar things and want the same things for people in the world to be connected? It's awesome.
It really is.
Well, I'm so excited for you all. I can't wait to try your products. Can't wait to give you full reviews and really get your advice. And I guess I would love to leave our listeners with maybe like a couple like ways, because you kind of mentioned this a few times, like what would you recommend for folks who really do want to get like back in their body? What are some ways, like a couple steps that folks could take in order to really be present with themselves if and when they want to be intimate with themselves or with a partner?
Oh, that's such a great question. Well, there's a couple things that I recommend kind of across the board as a sexual health counselor. And I actually do this with my kindergartners too. I do it like, it's like definitely a timeless, ageless activity. Well, there are a couple of them, but one, which, you know, you may know about and lots of people may know about, but is a body scan, which is like a mindfulness practice. But it's also a technique I learned in somatic experiencing training, which is a trauma counseling modality. And it's basically just, you can take 1 minute, you can take an hour, but it's just being still with yourself and going through your body and just checking in about, you know, how everything feels. Not only just like, oh, that feels okay, or that's good or bad, but just like actually how it feels. Like think about textures, think about movement, think about temperature, and notice places that feel stuck, and not even necessarily in the way of like, oh, that needs to be fixed, but just like that's there. And often just giving awareness to it helps movement. I also recommend an activity that is called the intuition gauge, which could, I know I probably don't have much time to explain it, but I wrote a blog about it that hopefully will be released soon, which you can go into more depth. But it's to do an exercise with yourself or a partner. Basically, this is also something I teach kindergarten through, you know, elderly, where you start out with a series of questions that are yes or no. And in the beginning, they're questions down. Are you driving a car? Do you have glasses on? And you can ask yourself that, or someone can ask you, and you just listen to the yes or no. You don't have to decide, because it's obvious if you're sitting down or you're standing up, you know. It's just a yes or a no, and you'll feel your body, you'll feel the yes and you'll feel the no. And then you progressively get in further and further to questions that are more challenging. And, you know, you start out like, do you like pizza? You know, you're like, oh. Then you get into questions that are like, that could be like some of the hardest questions of your life. And rather than trying to think through it, let your body tell you what the answer is. Because really, I strongly believe, and I have learned this a lot in the many different forms of like healing that I have trained in, that like, it's good to do your due diligence. It's good to think through and problem solve, but mostly we all already know the answers to the questions that we have. And the things that get in the way for us are I think usually it's the brain that gets in the way, and just kind of returning to the body and letting the body lead. Because actually, you know, the brain is not our organ of perception. The heart is. The brain's just interpreting the information that the heart receives. So kind of going back to the source, and bypassing, you know, the mental chatter, I think is deeply healing and allows for really incredible intimacy and connection to self and others. I'm probably out of time, but I could go on.
I love those so much. And of course, if you have others, we will definitely direct people to your blog. And to close, can you just maybe talk about your social media, where people can find you, your handles, and where people can access your products?
Oh, yes. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Yeah, so our website is toca.com. So that's just TOCA 3 times. And you can buy products through our website and more retail stores. And we're navigating, how we're distributing and all of that. But you can definitely buy through our website now, and you'll probably see us popping up a lot more places soon once the quarantine has passed. And then our Instagram is TOCA Botanica, so TOCA BOTANICA. And if you can find my information via our website or contact me through Instagram if you have questions about our products. If you want to schedule an appointment clinically around sexual health, it's really fun to be able to pair selling these products and working with people and kind of making suggestions, and also having a physical tool as a product to be able to offer people. And hopefully, keep an eye on our website and our Instagram. Hopefully we'll be having more offerings coming out soon as far as, classes and blogs and different resources and partnerships. We have a lot in the works.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure, and it's been really fun to be in conversation with you over these past few months.
Oh, you too. Sex Ed with DB is supported by ioba.toys. ioba.toys started in December 2018 when Francesca and her husband Martin decided to tackle a problem that always bothered them with sex toys: the noise. And so, the Oh My G, a super silent G-spot massager sex toy, was born. Use promo code SEXED25 for 25% off your purchase at www.ioba.toys.com and follow them on Instagram at ioba.toys. Creating a homemade dildo or a usable copy of your own penis is rapidly turning into the new standard in ultra-custom sex toys, thanks to Clone-A-Willy. Clone-A-Willy has been all about dick since '96 and brings you a DIY penis or vulva molding kit for your favorite sex toy or memento. Whether it be for a birthday, Hanukkah, or just because, Clone-A-Willy is the perfect gift. Use promo code SEXED20 for 20% off your purchase at www.cloneawilly.com. Sex Ed with DB is supported by FemmeFunn. FemmeFunn empowers all to take control of their pleasure and sexuality by putting the most powerful products on the market into your hands. Electrify your intimate life with 15% off your first purchase. Go to www.femmefun.com and enter promo code SEXEDWithDB at checkout. That's www.femmefun.com. Follow them on IG at FemmeFunn. Our creator, co-producer, sound engineer, and host is me, Danielle Bezalel, aka DB. Our co-producer and communications lead is Cathren Cohen. Our main logo and banner graphic were created by Andrea Forgacs. Our social media intern is Leslie Lopez. Our music theme is by Hook Sounds. Our ad music is by my stepdad, Bill Gant. Thank you so much to our featured guests, partners, and our listeners. If you're interested in advertising with us, email us at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. For more sex ed content, follow us on Insta at sexedwithdbpodcast. Tune in next time.